I pulled into my driveway after another soul-crushing day at the accounting firm, dreaming of nothing more than cracking a cold beer by my backyard oasis in Whispering Pines. Instead, I saw four matching navy polo shirts swarming my fence like locusts, bolt cutters snapping through the fresh cedar posts I'd installed myself last spring. And there she stood at the center of it all, Victoria Harrington, HOA president, clipboard pressed to her chest like a shield of righteousness, smiling that porcelain smile while her crew slapped a shiny new sign on my gate. Community Park Expansion Zone. No private use. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a fine for my grass being half an inch too tall. This was a straight-up land grab, and the queen bee of Whispering Pines had just declared war on the one guy who'd already been labeled the problem neighbor by every gossip in the cul-de-sac. I killed the engine, grabbed my phone, and started recording before my boots even hit the pavement. Victoria turned, sunglasses perched on her perfectly highlighted hair, and waved like we were old book club buddies. "Mr. Hey, so glad you're home." By order of the Whispering Pines Homeowners Association Charter, this rear yard section has been reclassified as shared community space. You'll need to vacate the pool and patio area immediately for the new walking path. Her voice dripped honey, the kind laced with arsenic. Behind her, one of the goons, some gym bro named Chad, grinned while he yanked another post free, the wood cracking like bones. I didn't yell. I never yell. That's what got me slandered back in my old town. Some PTA mom twisted a school board meeting into Logan Hayes is unstable, after I calmly pointed out budget lies. The rumor mill ran with it until I packed up and moved here for a fresh start. Now the same poison was leaking again, courtesy of Victoria's Whisper Network. I just held the phone steady, voice low and even. "Victoria, that fence is on my deeded property. Survey from closing day shows it clear as day. You're trespassing." She tilted her head, smile never wavering. "Oh sweetie, the charter supersedes old surveys. We updated the maps last quarter. Community first, right?" Chad chuckled. One of the women filming on her tablet muttered something about that guy who keeps to himself, probably hiding something. I felt the old knot in my stomach tighten, but I smiled right back. Community first? Cute. 60 seconds to get off my land before I call the sheriff. Smile for the camera, everyone. The bolt cutters froze mid-snap. Victoria's eyes flicked to my phone, calculating. She'd built her little empire on polite threats and neighborhood Facebook groups where she played concerned citizen. But footage doesn't care about manners. Chad shifted uneasily, glancing at her for orders. She finally waved a manicured hand. "We'll give you time to process the notices. But resistance only hurts the community, Mr. Hayes." They packed up slower than necessary, SUVs purring away while Victoria's smile lingered in my rearview like a bad aftertaste. I saved the video, labeled it Initial Trespass 10.14, and poured that beer with shaking hands. The woods behind my yard had promised peace when I signed the papers 2 years ago. Now they just felt like witnesses to the opening act of a very ugly play. 2 mornings later, the first official letter arrived, stuffed in my mailbox like a parking ticket from hell. Heavy cream paper, embossed HOA seal that looked official enough to fool the mailman. It claimed my rear 0.4 acres pool, patio, the little vegetable garden I actually enjoyed, had been inadvertently excluded from the original plat and was now being reclaimed for the preserve expansion. Big words, tiny lies. I laughed out loud in my kitchen, the bitter kind that echoes off empty walls. I'd been here before. Rumors, paperwork, people who smile while they sharpen the knife. But this time I didn't call anyone right away. I scanned every page, time-stamped it, and started a folder on my laptop titled Legal Ammo. I spent the next week playing the perfect neighbor. Mowed exactly on schedule, waved at the Karens walking their designer dogs, even nodded politely when Victoria posted in the group chat about unity during these difficult rezoning times. Inside, I was cataloging every move. Trail cams went up that same night, discreet, motion-triggered, aimed at the fence line. My old college buddy Josh, now a real estate attorney with a shark tattoo hidden under his suit, got the scans and laughed so hard he nearly dropped the phone. Logan, they photoshopped the plat lines. Amateur hour. We sit tight. Let them dig their hole deeper. So I sat. And they dug. The second envelope came taped to my front door in broad daylight. Bright orange, laminated, screaming notice of occupancy violation. Immediate compliance required. They'd added a QR code that led straight to their own website disguised as county records. I scanned it on my burner phone just for fun. The page even had stock photos of happy families walking a path that didn't exist yet. Right through my pool. Black humor at its finest. The HOA was so confident they'd already designed the brochure for the park that would replace my life. I added it to the folder without a word. By week 3 the harassment leveled up. My mailbox started filling with anonymous complaints forwarded from the city. Someone claimed I was dumping chemicals near the community retention pond. Never mind, the pond was 2 blocks away. Another said my reclusive behavior was lowering property values. Victoria's fingerprints were all over it. She'd been planting seeds in the neighborhood app for weeks. Poor Logan, after what happened in his last town, we just want everyone safe. The slander was back, dressed up as concern. I printed every post, highlighted the IP matches Josh's tech guy traced to her home office, and smiled into my coffee. Let them talk. Every whisper became another exhibit. Then came the gate. I got home from grocery shopping to find a brand new chain-link barrier blocking my own side yard access, complete with a shiny sign. HOA maintained easement. Residents use only. My pool toys were still visible on the other side, taunting me. I climbed over it without breaking stride. Camera rolling, heart pounding but voice calm when I called the non-emergency line. Deputy Ramirez showed up 20 minutes later, took one look at the fresh concrete footings, and shook his head. This isn't county code. This is them playing dress-up. He photographed everything while Victoria's crew, watching from across the street, suddenly found urgent business elsewhere. That night I sat on my patio, still technically mine, with Josh on speaker. They're escalating because they're scared, he said. Time to file the counter notice. But Logan, you sure you want to go nuclear? These people don't just lose gracefully. I stared at the folder, now 3 inches thick. Videos, scans, timestamps, neighbor affidavits I'd quietly collected from the 2 families Victoria had also screwed over last year. I thought about the rumors that followed me here, the way Victoria had weaponized them before she even met me. Nuclear's exactly what they ordered, I told him. Let's make sure the whole subdivision watches the mushroom cloud. The lawsuit landed like a grenade wrapped in legalese. Thick packet from county court, my name in bold. Whispering Pines HOA versus Logan Hayes, complaint for declaratory judgment and ejectment. They wanted my backyard, my pool, $85,000 in restoration costs, and a permanent injunction keeping me from interfering with community improvements. Victoria's signature sat at the bottom like a royal decree. I read it twice, poured a second whiskey, and called Josh. He didn't laugh this time. They attached a forged plat map. Dated 2 years before you bought the house. Bold. We answered the complaint with a counterclaim so thick it needed its own binder. I sat in Josh's office while he explained the discovery requests we'd file. Every charter document, every email, every bank record showing where the community improvement funds were really going. Spoiler: Victoria's cousin's landscaping company. They think you're the quiet guy who'll fold, Josh said, sliding the papers across. They have no idea you've been keeping receipts since day one. I signed where he pointed and felt something shift in my chest. Not anger anymore, but the cold satisfaction of a trap finally set. The neighborhood app exploded the next morning. Victoria posted a tearful plea. Neighbors, we're only trying to create green space for our children. Some residents are making this difficult. Comments poured in, some supportive, most confused. A few brave souls asked why the park just happened to be my backyard. I stayed silent online. But my cameras caught Victoria's Mercedes cruising past my house twice that afternoon, windows tinted, probably checking if I'd cracked yet. I hadn't. I was just waiting for the right moment to crack her instead. Court day arrived wrapped in Florida humidity thick enough to choke on. I wore the same gray suit I'd worn to my divorce hearing, simple, unassuming, the uniform of a man who'd learned that flash loses to facts. Victoria swept in like she owned the marble floors, Navy suit sharp, pearls gleaming, flanked by her bored minions and a lawyer who looked like he billed by the sneer. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. The neighborhood rumor mill had already painted me as the villain. Judge Harlan, a no-nonsense woman who'd seen every HOA trick in the book, called the case. Victoria's attorney droned about charter authority and community benefit. I watched Victoria's face, serene, confident, the queen on her throne. Then Josh stood up. Your Honor, we'd like to begin with the plaintiff's own charter documents. He slid the binder forward. The room went still as the first page hit the screen. The original HOA plat, filed the year before my house was even built. No mention of my lot. Then the updated version they'd attached to the lawsuit, lines redrawn with the kind of sloppy Photoshop even I could spot. Victoria's smile twitched. Josh didn't stop. And here are the emails. The projector lit up with Victoria's own words. If we get Hayes's backyard, the path connects straight to my pool deck. Keep it quiet. Use the old letterhead. Gasps rippled through the gallery. A board member in the back row suddenly found the floor fascinating. Victoria's lawyer tried to object. Judge Harlan shut him down with one raised eyebrow. By the time the handwriting expert took the stand, 3 different signatures on the charter, none matching Victoria's real one. The queen was sweating through her pearls. I finally spoke when the judge asked if I had anything to add. I kept it short, voice steady like the day I'd faced those bolt cutters. I just wanted a backyard where I could grill in peace. They turned it into their private kingdom. Turns out kingdoms built on forgeries don't stand very long. The gavel came down like thunder. All claims dismissed. My property restored. Victoria ordered to pay my legal fees, remove every fake sign within 48 hours, and best part, the state bar was already reviewing her real estate license for the forgery. As deputies escorted her out for the criminal referral, she finally looked at me. No smile now. Just raw panic wrapped in disbelief. This was for the community, she hissed. I met her eyes and answered the only way that mattered. No, Victoria. This was for you. The neighborhood changed overnight. Fake signs disappeared by sunrise. My fence got repaired on the HOA's dime, ironic, since the association was now under state investigation. A few families actually waved real smiles instead of the polite ones. Evelyn from 2 doors down brought over a casserole with an actual apology. We believed her stories about you. We were wrong. I accepted the dish and the olive branch. The slander that had followed me here finally died in the same courtroom that killed Victoria's reign. Weeks blurred into a strange new normal. The backyard felt bigger somehow, like the air itself had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. I sat on the patio most evenings, watching the sunset paint the pool in oranges and pinks that no HOA color palette could ever approve. The trail cam stayed up, not out of fear but habit. Old soldiers and old accountants both learned to keep watch. Victoria's face had been all over the local news for 3 straight days. HOA president accused of forgery in land grab scandal. The station even ran my security footage. Chad with the bolt cutters, Victoria directing traffic like a traffic cop from hell. Neighbors who'd once nodded along to her community first posts were suddenly posting their own stories in the group chat. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd squeezed. Mrs. Alvarez down the street had been fined $2,400 for unauthorized wind chimes that somehow threatened property values. Mr. Patel had lost his shed to an emergency code enforcement crew after he questioned her about the annual dues hike. The dam had cracked and the flood was glorious. But cornered queens don't just surrender. 2 weeks after the hearing, my phone buzzed at 2 a.m. Blocked number. A woman's voice, low and venomous. You think this is over? You have no idea who I know at the planning department. Walk away or those old rumors about your temper become official records. Click. I saved the recording, forwarded it to Josh, and went back to sleep. Black humor of the situation. The woman who'd built an empire on fear was now reduced to midnight prank calls. The next escalation came dressed as civic duty. A shiny new notice appeared in every mailbox, official county letterhead, or so it seemed, announcing a voluntary community assessment to cover the legal defense fund. For the HOA, my name was listed under primary cause of increased costs. I almost choked on my coffee. They were trying to make the whole neighborhood pay for Victoria's crimes. Josh filed an injunction the same day. The county quickly disavowed the letter. Turns out Victoria's brother-in-law worked in the printing office and had borrowed the template. Another felony on the pile. I started getting real mail again, actual support. One envelope had no return address, just a $20 gift card to the local hardware store and a note. For the new fence posts. Thank you for fighting. Another was from a retired judge 3 streets over. Saw the news. Proud of you, son. These associations forget they serve the homeowners, not the other way around. I pinned them to my fridge like battle ribbons. The quiet guy who'd been slandered into moving across the state was suddenly the neighborhood folk hero. Irony so thick you could spread it on toast. Discovery kept delivering gifts. Josh's paralegal unearthed bank statements showing Victoria had funneled HOA dues into a personal LLC that just happened to own the landscaping company doing the park expansion. Every palm tree they'd planned to plant on my former backyard had already been billed to my neighbors at triple the market rate. When the forensic accountant took the stand in the follow-up hearing, even the bailiff winced. Victoria sat there in her orange jumpsuit. Bail had been revoked after she tried to flee to her sisters in Atlanta, face pale under the courtroom lights. Her usual pearls had been replaced by regret. I took the stand only once more, when the judge asked for my impact statement. I didn't rant. I didn't need to. Your Honor, I moved here because I was tired of being the villain in someone else's story. Victoria Harrington decided to write the next chapter without my permission. All I did was read it back to her with receipts. The gallery chuckled, the first real laugh in that room in weeks. Victoria stared at the table like it might open and swallow her whole. Outside on the courthouse steps the sun felt warmer than it had in months. Reporters shoved microphones at me. I gave them the same calm answer every time. The only rule that matters is the one written on the deed. Everything else is just noise. One young journalist asked if I was worried about retaliation. I glanced back at the building where Victoria was being processed for her criminal case. She already tried everything. Turns out paper burns, but deeds don't. That evening the entire cul-de-sac showed up uninvited for an impromptu barbecue on my restored lawn. Someone brought fireworks. Someone else brought a piñata shaped like a clipboard. I stood by the grill flipping burgers while kids splashed in the pool that had almost been paved over. For the first time since I'd unpacked in Whispering Pines, the laughter didn't feel forced. The slander that had chased me here was finally buried under evidence, laughter, and the smell of charcoal and victory. But I kept one folder on my desk labeled just in case. Because I'd learned the hard way twice now that people who crave control never really let go. They just wait for the next quiet neighbor to come along. The final gavel fell on a Tuesday that smelled like cut grass and freedom. Judge Harlan didn't waste words. All civil claims dismissed with prejudice. Defendant Logan Hayes retains full title and use of his property. Plaintiff Association ordered to pay $127,000 in legal fees, damages, and sanctions. Harrington, you are remanded into custody pending criminal proceedings on multiple counts of forgery, fraud, and abuse of process. The courtroom erupted. Not with cheers, people in suits don't cheer, but with a collective exhale that felt louder than any standing ovation. Victoria stood slowly, handcuffs clicking like the final period on her reign. She looked smaller without the clipboard, without the entourage, without the pearl necklace that had once screamed, "I'm better than you." Her eyes found mine across the aisle one last time. No apology. Just a hollow stare that said she still didn't understand how a nobody with a phone and a folder had toppled her kingdom. I gave her the same small nod I'd given the bolt cutter crew months earlier. Polite. Final. Outside, the sun hit my face like a high five. Neighbors I barely knew shook my hand. Mrs. Alvarez hugged me so hard I thought my ribs would crack. "We all owe you an apology," she whispered. We let her bully us because it was easier than standing up. I told her the truth. Standing up is only hard the first time. After that, it's just the right thing to do. The HOA itself was placed into receivership by the state. New board elections were scheduled. Term limits included this time. The neighborhood app, once Victoria's personal propaganda channel, became a place where people actually posted lost dogs and block party invites instead of passive-aggressive fines. My backyard stayed exactly as I designed it. Pool, garden, the little fire pit where I now grilled for actual friends instead of eating alone while staring at forged documents. 2 Saturdays later, I hosted what the neighbors started calling the Great Un-HOA Party. String lights crisscrossed the yard, coolers overflowed, kids ran wild without fear of noise violation letters. Someone brought a banner that read, "No more clipboard tyranny." I laughed harder than I had in years. Josh showed up with his wife and a bottle of top-shelf bourbon. "You know," he said, clinking glasses, "most people would have sold and run. You stayed and fought smart." I shrugged. Running just gives them the yard. I liked my yard. Later, when the music died down and only a few of us remained under the stars, Evelyn, the quiet widow who'd brought that first casserole, sat beside me. "Logan, be honest. Was it worth it? All the stress, the rumors starting again." I looked at the pool reflecting the moon, at the fence that was finally legally mine, at the folder I'd finally moved from my desk to a drawer labeled closed cases. "Every single second," I told her. "Because the next guy who moves in won't have to fight the same fight. That's worth more than any backyard." She smiled, raised her glass. "To the quiet ones who aren't quiet anymore." I clinked back. The woods behind the yard rustled like they were finally keeping their original promise. Peace earned the hard way. So here's the question I keep turning over in my head every time I sit by that pool. When the rules are written by people who only follow them when it suits their wallet, who's really the criminal? The homeowner who fights back with patience and proof, or the polished president who steals land while smiling for the neighborhood photo op? Was Victoria Harrington wrong for wanting a prettier park? Or was she just the latest Karen who forgot that deeds trump decrees? You tell me. Because the next time an HOA Karen comes for your backyard, you might be the one holding the camera and the truth.